And we are live. My name is Outlaw. I'm your host of RNN Live. Now, why don't we have our guests introduce themselves, starting from the bottom?
Hello, I am Pedro. I am totally not a Fed.
Neko?
Hello, my name's Neko Boy. I'm a music producer and also not a Fed. Wink, wink.
Z?
Yeah, I'm just refusing to answer anything.
Okay, well...
I just feel like if I say anything, I'm going to be liable in court.
Alright, so now that our guests introduced themselves, first, Z had something he wanted to show before we get on with the video.
No, that wasn't before. I was thinking something during the show. I don't even have it up anymore.
I can bring it up. Let me see.
Bring it up, fine.
What, did you not want to do it right now, or we can do it after the video?
Let's just get this over with.
Okay, let's
You
do
now
it after
mentioned
the
it,
video.
now we get rid of it.
Alright. So, the first video will be, is Pepe racist? Hunter reacts to Hunter. Can everyone hear it?
Yep.
Is there just an explosion?
What's up, everybody? It's your favorite white guy, Hunter Avalone, here, back with another episode of Wrecked Wednesdays, the show where Hunter Avalone destroys Hunter Avalone with facts and logic. The video that we're going to be looking at today is this one. Pepe the Frog is a...
Ironically, both Hunter Avalones are stupid.
racist symbol, published October 7th, 2016. So this was before Donald Trump was even elected president. I'm very sorry, younger Hunter. Gonna have to give this one a dislike. Just for the beanie alone. I look like a lesbian hipster at Starbucks. I'm so glad that I've matured and I now have a wife who can tell me, Hunter, don't wear that beanie, please. The reason I'm wearing a beanie is because I was going to trade school. I was learning more about film and editing and whatnot. And I was very busy. I had a very busy schedule. So I would just throw my beanie on because it got to the point that I just would rather sleep in instead of getting up a little early to work on making my beautiful hair look beautiful. Sometimes I look back at my old self and just wish I could forget about some things and remember the good parts. I wish I could forget about cringy right-wing Hunter, and I wish I could remember, I don't know, playing Angry Birds.
Maybe this
What
video was
in
a
the world
mistake.
is this? A sponsor? That's right, guys. It's the amazing Angry
Okay, let's
Birds
just skip
2
to that.
in my
Yes.
description. And if you download now,
That was a
classic,
sequel to Angry
with
Birds?
looking for a challenge,
I mean,
you need to download Pepe the
How
Frog.
many fucking versions of
So
Angry
this video
Birds
came
has there
out right
been?
after.
I have no
Angry
idea.
Birds, then there's Angry Birds Space, there's also Angry Pigs, if I'm not mistaken, then there's also that cartoon series, then there's Angry Birds Racer, then there's also Angry Birds Transformers, and
Then there was a Angry Birds Star Wars.
yes.
Anyways, let's continue.
After the ADL added Pepe the Frog to the hate symbol database. So yeah, let's go ahead and watch. Let's find out what kind of spicy takes right-wing 2016 edgelord Hunter Avalone has for us today. Now you're probably wondering, how could this possibly be a problem? How could this funny, cute little cartoon frog possibly be racist? Well, you can thank Hillary Dimwit Clinton for a lot of it. You see, after she thought it'd be a really great idea to call millions of Americans deplorable, so I kind of start off being a little based because shitting on Hillary Clinton is always okay in my book. Yeah, the general gist of this was that Trump shared this meme, the deplorables, and they put the Pepe frog there, and then Hillary Clinton, who is motivated primarily by politics, of course, published her big diatribe about how Donald Trump in the relation to Pepe the frog and white supremacists and all this stuff. So the Hillary part of this was cringy. Of course, Hillary Clinton isn't going to deliver very much nuance, and of course she's weaponizing this as much as possible to incriminate Donald Trump. I start off the video actually agreeing here with right-wing me. Hillary Clinton is a witch. Why? Why would I vote for Hillary Clinton? What is she gonna do? Ban the Pepe meme? Hillary Clinton, you are an evil witch. You already put your grimy, wrinkled fingers all over your emails and screwed that up. So clearly, you have. I just. Oh man, I sound so much like Tommy Lauren and Fox News and a boomer. Even walking.
Apparently, he
So
was
please do us
also
all a
much
favor
skinnier
and
back
keep
then.
your grimy paws off of our memes. And now, to make matters even worse, the Anti-Defamation League has officially labeled Pepe. Wait, this is a perfect example of what happens when all you do is read Twitter headlines. When all you do is just copy the headlines. Why did I not read anything? Why did I not go in depth on anything here? First of all, I'm delivering this information as if Hillary Clinton cried about it and then the ADL labeled it a hate symbol right after. When I looked it up, it's much more like it was kind of being recognized as a symbol that had largely been co-opted by white nationalists and neo-Nazis. So all I really do is read a blurb from Hillary Clinton's website, which, let's be honest, is much easier to dunk on, right? And then just flash a headline, and I don't even go into any detail. If you actually look here at the ADL article, it says right here in black and white, because so many Pepe the Frog memes are not bigoted in nature, it is important to examine use of the meme only in context. The mere fact of posting a Pepe meme does not mean that someone is racist or white supremacist. However, if the meme itself is racist or anti-Semitic in nature, or if it appears in a context containing bigoted or offensive language or symbols, then it may have been used for hateful purposes. This is not
none of us
complicated
gonna
to
give commentary to the video except me.
So I guess
I think the cringiest thing he's doing is defending the ADL. Not even most lefties defend the ADL.
Well, first I was gonna say it's a little hard when he's reacting to himself, then we're reacting to the reaction. It's hard to find out where do you interject.
Wait, he's reacting to his own video about himself?
Yes, that's a younger Hunter Avalon when he was much skinnier.
Yeah, you can tell in the face he put on some weight.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just, I mean, you can tell what the ADL is doing because at first they're like, oh, it's a hate symbol, and then in the paragraph, oh, but it's contextual, so like, okay, is it or isn't?
I mean, literally anything can be used as a hate symbol by anyone, so it's kind of superfluous to even mention it.
Yeah, it's...
If that was their idea, it's just to say, oh, this thing is being used by some people that is being used for hate, well, literally anything can be used that way. It seems to me more they're just trying to cover their ass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, I mean, I couldn't tell the difference, but I wouldn't be surprised if they edited it due to backlash. Kind of like when BLM took down their destroying the nuclear family tab.
Mm-hmm.
Understand, I'm pretty sure a kindergartner can understand this. It almost seems like I was just way too hyped up in this anti-SJW circle jerk that I either didn't do any research or maybe I was being dishonest.
Question,
I
does
don't
they still do
entirely
research?
remember. I thought there was a portion in the video.
What?
Answer is probably no.
No, I was asking if he's still doing quote-unquote research now.
Oh, yeah, he definitely isn't.
And he's just in
Where
a
I may
different
have
circle
met-
jerk.
Mm-hmm.
mentioned something like this, but no, there wasn't. So yeah, just seems really lame. Seems like I didn't do hardly any research. And secondly, you have to look at this in a very two-dimensional, uncharitable way in order for you to just crap on it, right? You have to ignore all the nuance. We already recognize that something can not be racist, but then can be used in racist context. Everybody agrees with this. If I had a banana peel, no one cares. But if you took a banana peel and started throwing it at a black person, well, suddenly that might have a different connotation. We already recognize this. Nation League website, they show a few of these memes.
He just argued about weaponizing a banana peel.
Okay.
But is any
Wow. Yeah. Yes. Very hateful indeed. These are some pretty solid examples.
Okay, so let's see. What Pepe's do we got? We got, I'm assuming, the Jew Pepe, the supremacist Pepe.
That's the KKK. 9/11. Israel did 9/11. Pepe.
Wait, that's the Israel? I thought that was just supposed to be. Oh, wait, I didn't see the.
You then say the yarmulke.
I didn't see the yarmulke. Okay.
You need new glasses. This is the third event today of I didn't see something.
I was looking at the image on the right, okay? I wasn't
It's only
looking
been
at the
20
image on the
minutes.
left. Anyway,
And then we got SS Feels Good Man, and then the Holocaust Pepe.
All right, let's continue.
I would say. I mean, these are some JQ stuff, anti-Semitism, just flat out blatant racism, white nationalism. Yeah, all of this is pretty solid example of Pepe memes being used for hateful purposes.
anyone even really upset by these hateful Pepe memes?
It doesn't matter if people are upset by it or not. It matters if it's being used that way or not. It's also kind of funny because I would always
Why care? Why care what a race is gonna do with the meme? Like, I really don't give a shit. They're gonna do it either way. Why care?
Because we're gonna cry about something.
crap on people putting feelings over facts, but now I'm saying it shouldn't have been changed unless someone's feelings were hurt by it. So feelings matter now? I am not being consistent here at all.
To be honest, the only one I found to be kind of rude was the black person imitation Pepe. Other than that, all the other ones were just kind of like, whatever.
Are you kidding me right now?
Yes?
I kind of agree with his current self too. I mean, he should probably imply like, oh, they're ironic or something. Although the Jews did 9/11 one is something people actually believe. It's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, but that's also because when we look at the track record of what the Israeli government has done, I mean, let's just say this. If you have to choose between an Islamist covered in a bomb vest and an Israeli political figure of not killing you, I'd much rather trust the bomb vest. Because Israel has the worst track record. It's literally the worst ally, the worst nation you can think about, because they... How would I describe it as? I mean, of course, we know what happened with the USS Liberty, the ship that they fired upon, and knowingly fired upon. But then there's also things like killing people in Europe, and so on. It will get
In Europe.
It's most sad. Israel's special services / intelligence service, their equivalent of whatchamacallit, the CIA.
Oh, Mossad.
Yeah. Long story short, don't trust Israel. I mean, it's already impressive just how much money the US government gives to them and just how much of a liability is. Because I think the most interesting thing to find out about the Israeli government is how much of a security breach it is to the US. It's so much so that now in Europe, we don't sell them most weapons anymore, especially if they're new. Because one of the biggest issues with Israel is that whenever they get a new weapon system, especially from the US, which is covered in the defense budget, yeah,
And we also
instantly
give
sell...
missiles to Taiwan.
What?
I was saying we also give missiles to Taiwan.
Yeah, but Taiwan is actually trustworthy, and I don't think the Taiwanese want to give
Don't you mean Chinese Taipei?
Oh, shut up.
Okay.
We have to appease our YouTube.
No, but
We're not the Olympic Committee.
Oh, boy.
Uh,
But yeah, I don't think Taiwan is gonna sell the best gear that they can get from the US directly to China, because I know that they're mentally sane. Now Israel, on the other hand, basically, as far as I could find, anything that the US government has sold to them since 1981 that was latest technology, stuff you shouldn't be selling with a nation that you may consider an enemy in the near future. Yeah, Israel sells a portion of that to China every time.
First I've heard about that.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know they were selling anything to China.
Don't worry, the US has a long track record of having partially bad allies. Another example I can think of is Britain, because the way that that the Soviet Union got the new jet engine for their MiG-15 fighters is because a British guy sold them on a legal document telling that he's only selling one of the best jet engines around in the 50s, only if the Soviet Union doesn't use them for military aircraft. And they made one civilian aircraft that uses the jet engine, and then they made, I think, 6 new fighter aircrafts with the jet engine.
Yeah, because you can totally trust Russia.
Yes, and it's the same thing
Yes,
with
go Brit.
Israel, which is just, don't worry, we're trustworthy. We don't do any shady shit, and then sell it. I mean, for God's sakes, this is Israel we're talking about. One of their former defense, Secretary of Defense, is the same one who frequently visited Epstein's building in New York, the rape house. So, you do with that info what you will.
Oh.
Oh my god! This is what I mean when I say that my fucking channel used to be a safe space for neo-Nazis. It's just a little rude. Really. I'm literally just playing defense for neo-Nazis right now.
Are black people
I'm pretty sure neo-Nazis wouldn't be offended by even a small bit.
No.
So, like, that's kind of dumb to say here. Oh, jeez.
really scrolling through the internet and then seeing the KKK Pepe and getting upset?
That's literally irrelevant if they are or not. Second of all, why am I saying the other ones are just whatever? So I'm acknowledging that this is a KKK meme. So why would I say that's just whatever?
Or is anyone really getting
If
upset?
anything, to me, the KKK meme seems to also could be making fun of just the KKK because they look stupid. I don't know. Your thoughts?
Well, I guess kind of thinking like from a South Park perspective, just kind of laughing at the absurdity of the KKK could be another way to see it.
Upset by a 9/11 joke, Pepe?
Hold up, whoa, it's not a 9/11 joke, Pepe. For those of you who don't know and need an explainer, maybe you don't understand either, this is the Jew right here with the hat. See, they see the plane fly into the Twin Towers and then they smirk. What this is signaling at the idea that Jews did 9/11. It's just like that dog whistle when they say, look up dancing Israelis. The reason they think Jews did 9/11 is because allegedly there were some Israelis that were like dancing when 9/11 happened or something, like really just bizarre shit. Of course, there's no real coherence there, but that's what this meme right here is signaling at. No, Hunter, it's just a 9/11 joke, bruh. That's not what this is.
So come on, guys, why are you singling good old Pepe out? Even with all the time I spend on the internet, I've never even seen these hateful Pepe memes. They must be extremely rare.
What's even funnier is now that this video is 4 years old, we can just look back and realize that this didn't age very well because now we have small Dick Fuentes and his giant army of fucking virgins running around with their Groiper profile pictures, which is, yes, a co-opted version of Pepe the Frog. Racist dumb fucks have done this throughout history also. Like, we all remember the very obvious example, how Nazis twisted the swastika, which was originally a symbol of the Buddha, into an emblem of hate. This isn't that hard to understand. It's pretty obvious. No one is saying that Pepe is all entirely bad, just that it's being co-opted to propel bad ideas.
Remember, it's the internet.
It's
there
called
are
a fucking
tons of
joke.
racist memes
Pepe-
on the internet.
I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you cry that Pepe is just racist, the more someone is going to make a new Pepe that is intentionally to look racist and then to offend someone. I mean, it's basically the same thing as what I recently saw on Twitter, which was, what was it? It was someone who was like pointing out something is called this. I only remember the second half of it, which was a group of gorillas is called a band, and a group of gamers is called sexist. And then the top comment underneath that, or the first comment that you could find, which had a lot of likes, was actually it's called racist. but it's coming from someone in an ironical sense because that person had a fucking Pepe profile picture. But you get the point.
Mm-hmm.
Pepe is not the only one. Are you going to label every single racist meme as a hate symbol?
No. Oh, stop. It's not every racist meme. It's because Pepe is the one consistent symbol that's being consistently used to push forward neo-Nazi dog whistles. Also,
But it's also
the dog
because the
whistles.
people who say that they're neo-Nazi dog whistles, they just get pushed more. Like the whole thing with milk. It wasn't getting pushed around, really, until the left started saying it was.
Same with the OK sign. Like, it's so vague and innocuous, but it's only a hate symbol, quite literally, because they said it was.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I completely reject this line of thinking that, oh, well, there's already racism on the internet, so who cares, guys? You could use that logic for anything. You could have justified Jim Crow with that logic. To say because we'll never be able to 100% fix this problem means we shouldn't even start to confront a part of the problem or even identify one way that a meme is being used to be racist is absolutely pathetic. That's
because fucking Pepe is equivalent to Jim Crow. Wasn't the sole purpose of Jim Crow like to ensure that you don't hire black people? Wasn't that seriously like the purpose?
Well, Jim Crow was to separate blacks from whites. That was the main reason. They didn't want...
Yeah, but by removing them from profession, hence why you have a white person dressed up in blackface and so on.
I mean, yeah, there's that, but that's just, I think, minstrel. That's something specifically from the Jim Crow era, but not Jim Crow. Jim Crow were specific laws.
Ah, okay, so then I'm just making up something.
cop-out, nothing more.
I think this whole Pepe thing also reveals more about society. For one, it shows how far political correctness has gone. That a cartoon frog, used for racist memes, sometimes has now landed a spot in the hate symbol database.
It's a database so you can identify when they're being used in a racist.
I think someone can identify when something is being used in a racist way. You don't need to say it. Like, seriously. If someone had that Pepe thing and was showing it in a racist way, I'm pretty sure people can figure that out for themselves.
To be fair, I so far haven't experienced a Pepe that was, let's say, intentionally racist without the goal of being offensive. Does that make sense?
You mean just being used as an image and not being used...
No, like in the sense that someone, like, once again, let's take Twitter, where someone is accusing this person of being racist, and then his position is like, yes, and then insert racist Pepe picture over here. Now, basically what I'm saying is that when you read the whole thread, it's pretty clear. Yeah, the guy isn't racist, but the other one is just accusing them of being racist the whole time, so then you just go and, you send the most offensive thing you can and hopes that the person on the other side head explode. Sadly, it never works. But aside from that, I don't think I've ever truly seen a Pepe that was intentionally used in a racist manner to actually promote a racist opinion.
First and foremost. Second of all, I sound like such a dumbass Fox News commentator. Political correctness gone too far. Identifying anti...
Well, political correctness has gone too far.
And you
that's
have
just
the
a
left
fact.
saying it too, like Sarah Silverman and Bill Maher.
Now, Bill Maher has always been the slightly more mentally sane portion of the political left. I guess it was just the usual thing that you gotta remember that they are celebrities, so they're not gonna really know most things to an accurate degree. As for Sarah Silverman, that one actually really surprised me, considering that the two things I know Sarah Silverman from is Wreck-It Ralph. And that time she cried Nazis were painting symbols on her street, and it was a construction crew marking where the gas line was, because she didn't know what a swastika looks like anymore. I'm not even joking about that.
I mean, you're right about the out of touch celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
No, because Bill Maher, no matter how much he made his stupid statements, he does have a logical way of thinking. I mean, it's kind of like that time that he pissed off. What's the retard called again? Who's the one who was playing Batman for like Justice League and so on? Ben Affleck. That when he had him on the show and they were discussing something about Islam, and his opinion isn't really controversial. I think it was the whole thing that Islam has a. Can't remember if it was a terrorism problem, an
It was
acid
a few
problem.
years ago. I don't remember.
Yeah, but you get the point. He was still like, for a left winger, you don't mention this thing at all. But
Yeah, because
but the whole time that he's been left wing because his morals are left wing, but he's actually working logically, and that he finally realizes, oh wow, the part of politics I'm on is beyond fucking toxic. Is basically because he's just out of touch.
Yeah, Bill Maher's far more consistent. Like, if you hate homophobia, then maybe you should be wary of Islam too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no. The left is only tolerant of Islam now because it's convenient.
Mm-hmm. All right, I will press to continue.
Anti-Semitism and racism. Oh, fuck!
People are way too sensitive and get offended for the sake of others far too often.
That clip isolated is true, but in this context, it does not apply very well.
Grow some thicker skin already. If you're that offended by a meme on the internet, you don't belong on the internet in the first place.
Bingo.
Look, if you walk into the grocery store and you see that one water fountain is for blacks and one water fountain is for whites,
Oh, for fuck's
if you're
sakes,
really
that's
going to be
not
that
what he's
offended by it,
saying.
then maybe you just don't belong in the grocery store.
The internet is a very, very not so great.
No. One is literally where there's a series of laws in place to ensure you that if you do something, you can go to prison and probably experience some level of police brutality, considering the time range that it was in. The other one literally is the internet is a vast ocean which is open to everyone. If you're a little shit, you're a little shit. Get off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a big difference between a public service and, like, the virtual version of being in the wild.
I got another example of what this thing is. It was that thing from, I can't remember if it was CNN or Fox News, old on GTA 5, where someone was like having sex because they had a modded server thing. So they were having quote unquote sex with their friend's character out in the streets, and the host was saying something. The graphical detail is so high, blah blah blah, and then just going on to this is virtual rape, and it's like the whole time that they have this clip and she's saying that this is virtual rape, the two guys are laughing because of just how fucking insane that they broke in the server.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. It's
Again, these are like non-arguments that also don't make sense. People use the internet one way or another. It's a major way that people communicate and live their lives in our current society. So for me to say, just get off the internet, just don't deal, just blah, 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 like it's a cop-out argument. Now, I do agree that people can have thicker skin, and I do agree that people don't need to be super sensitive, but that also includes me here, Hunter. That also includes not getting so triggered and offended by the ADL adding very clear and obvious examples of a meme being used for racist intent.
This whole thing also shows more about race. That race is such a hot topic right now that people are willing to reach so far to take something that's not even necessarily racist and make it racist.
Oh, yeah. Look, why are all these politically correct libtards looking at these memes and saying they're racist, guys? I mean, like, what is the matter with you people? Just grow a thicker skin already.
How desperate to be offended are we?
How desperate to be offended are we when we see blatant caricatures of black people with slightest way. I assume that's already been made abundantly clear minus 70,000 subscribers later.
Just an idea, but maybe we should work on improving race relations rather than making racial tension even worse by presenting a problem that wasn't even there before.
Oh, come on.
Which, that young Hunter Everlone did have a point there, with not making race relations worse over a non-issue.
Screw that. Race War 2, Electric Boogaloo. They need
I
them.
mean, CNN would love that.
Anyways, I think
Of course,
we're done.
because of course CNN would love that. They would get the opportunity to call white people racist the whole time. But now, the black, whichever side, I'm gonna take a guess that it will be BLM. Didn't BLM already like attack CNN's headquarters in Atlanta?
Last year they did, yeah.
Anyways,
Last year's in 2020 or 2019? I can't
2020.
remember.
During the BLM riots.
Anyways, now you guys have 2 votes again. So, which videos did you want to vote for? Just put this in a way so we can see all of them. There we go. From 93 to 97 are the ones.
Study.
Sorry?
I'm voting for study.
Okay, so 97. You have one more vote, Val.
What are the choices again?
What's on the screen?
I can't keep going. Sorry, my lungs.
It's on my it's on my
okay,
phone. It's too small
We
for me
got
to read.
the Love Island to the alt-right pipeline.
I gotta vote for the Love Island.
Okay. One for Love Island, one for... And then the other one, the one that Val voted for was Study Identity Politics. The study Identity Politics Kills Progressive Popularity. Then we have... Let's see, the guy with the hate boner for PragerU. His white privilege isn't real, or the doing God's dirty work. Then we have how to spot logical fallacies. So both of you guys have 2 votes left.
I'd say my second vote goes to the study.
For me, it's study and how to spot a logical fallacies.
All right, Pedro, did you want to vote?
Logical fallacies.
So Val, you said study and logical fallacies?
Yes.
Okay, I vote for logical fallacies, so we'll go with that.
Urban area. And I'm seeing like open needles on the street. Walk out of my
Hold on, let's rewind.
Hey, I'm Mr. Beats. I regularly listen to both Joe Rogan's and Ben Shapiro's podcasts. So I was excited last summer to see that Shapiro had once again appeared as a guest on the Joe Rogan Experience, episode number 1512 on July 22nd, 2020. However, something really stood out to me as I listened. There were a lot of logical fallacies in this episode, like more than normal. This was disappointing to me, especially since Shapiro is known as a logical dude.
But you're a logical, intelligent guy.
So what are logical fallacies? Oh, you want me to tell you? Logical fallacies are common errors in
Was that
reasoning
comedy?
based on bad logic.
Mr. Beat, what's logic?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Puppets. When I searched online, there were many different definitions of logic. The one I'm going to use for this video, though, is reaching a reasonable conclusion by adequately analyzing facts. For example, if someone spends too much money to a point where they can't afford basic necessities, then it is logical to conclude they should save their money to have more of it. At first glance,
mean
a logical fallacy seems to be true, but
my
once
joke
we
is gone.
apply the rules of logic, it is problematic. Often we use logical fallacies and we don't even realize it. Logical fallacies hurt our ability to argue, but more importantly, they cause us to fall fall for crappy arguments. So back to the latest Joe
Like
Rogan
what we're gonna
experience
watch?
to feature Ben Shapiro.
What?
I'll play clips from
I
that.
said so like what we're gonna watch, because so far this guy hasn't made good arguments, because even in his video in defense of George Soros, it just makes George Soros look like an old creep who's willing to sell you if he could make a buck off of it. Maybe not sell him as the worst person on the planet, but even his defense video is like, his wife is less than half his age, and he'll screw over countries worldwide to make some money off of it. It definitely sounds like the person who would find a way to justify selling you into slavery if you could make extra money for him.
Episode and
Well, yeah,
pause
like
it to
didn't
point
this? Oh, yeah, didn't the CEO of Reddit say that if slavery was legal, he would buy slaves?
I have no
We're gonna
idea.
need some context to that, because that could also be a joke. Because when I hear statements like this, I need to know the context, because that sounds like a joke that I would make for one reason or another. So, no context. It could be a joke. It could be a serious statement.
Anyways, let's
logical fallacy and then define it, maybe give some examples. I also have puppets to help out a little bit, so that's different. Okay, here the two talk about kosher food.
The original logic was that you were supposed to kill the animal in the most humane way, was the idea. Now, do I know if it's the most humane way now? I have no idea.
It's
but-
most certainly not, Ben.
Okay, well,
Because you have to slice
take it
his
up with the
throat.
rabbis, man. I don't know.
When Shapiro says, take it up with the rabbis, man, I don't know, that is an example of the faulty appeal to authority fallacy. That's using the opinion or position of an authority figure or institution of authority in place of an actual argument. One can be guilty of committing a
I'm
faulty
pretty
appeal
sure
to
that's called a
authority
fucking
by...
joke.
Like, it was.
This is
They
pretty
were-
obvious a joke. What the fuck?
It was obvious they're talking casually about the subject.
Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
other problem. Is that this isn't a debate. This is a. Just
He's like
an interview.
Snopes fact checking jokes.
No, it's like when Snopes
Yes.
was fact checking. What was it? Was Ocasio-Cortez at the Capitol Hill during the riots, or accusation? Ocasio-Cortez wasn't near or in the building during the Capitol Hill riots, and then Snopes, it's false. Explanation: Ocasio-Cortez wasn't in the Capitol Hill.
Yeah, it's obvious that
Yes,
this conversation
that's,
isn't.
Yeah,
that's-
political fact checks are really dumb.
But anyways, as I was going to say, is that it's obvious that this conversation is not supposed to be like something super serious. They're just having just talking. It's just an interview. It's not like not even a super serious interview. It's just like it's sort of like a sort of somewhat friends talking with each other about stuff. No comment.
I
to
mean,
what
yeah, but you can still point out logical fallacies during casual talk.
yes, you can. However,
But
that was like something.
this
like,
isn't an example. This.
Anyways, let's continue.
Trying to impress us or make us reluctant to challenge that authority's viewpoint. It just seems like he is making it up.
How can you say that?
Every week he keeps on changing things.
He's doing it to make sure the faithful do not become complacent.
But what is it with all the chickens?
Whoa, that is teal level stuff. Way out of my league.
Here's another example of the faulty appeal to authority fallacy about the 1619 Project, which we will get into more later.
It's not good history. There are 4 Pulitzer Prize-winning historians who've said this is not good history.
Okay, be listening for the phrase, "This isn't my argument," coming up here soon.
The story of America is trying to fulfill the promises of the Declaration of Independence over time, make those promises available to everybody. And this isn't my argument. This is Martin Luther King Jr.'s argument when he talks in the March in Washington about fulfilling the promissory note of the Declaration of Independence. He says, we're here to cash the check, right? You issued us the check, and then you didn't let black Americans be Americans. We're here to cash the check. This is the argument Frederick Douglass, the freed slave, makes in 1852. Makes a famous...
Except we also have to look at the fact, is it wrong? Even if it is a logical fallacy, is it wrong? Which it's not wrong. That was the intent of the whole point of America, is to fill out its promise. A lot of the founding fathers did not like slavery and would have liked it banned from the start. However, they couldn't get all the states to agree to that. So they did with the next best thing they could. Nothing else you guys want to add?
Nope.
No.
Speech before
yeah, no.
slavery's ended. And he says July 4th doesn't mean anything to black Americans because we're not included in the bargain. Martin Luther King said, in the name of the flag, civil rights are necessary.
Okay, enough of those. Let's move ahead a bit.
And the move from LA being a pretty safe, fairly nice city, suburban in orientation, to just overrun with horror shows is really... It was a lot faster than I thought it would be, but it's sort of you're right, it's a gradual decline and then it's just off a cliff.
Obviously, this is an exaggeration here, but I'd also argue that this is an example of the either-or fallacy, also known as the black or white fallacy, or false dichotomy fallacy. The either-or fallacy is when someone asserts that we must choose between two things, when in fact we have more than two alternatives. So here, Ben is basically saying, hey, it used to be a very nice suburban-like city, and now it is the worst city ever. You basically have two extremes when I think we all know that LA is somewhere in between. Okay, here.
No, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's not as bad as San Francisco, but it's pretty bad.
Not as bad as Chicago or Detroit.
That too.
I wouldn't say Chicago is as bad as those other cities you mentioned.
But yeah, there's like there is
Baltimore is way
objective
worse than
evidence
Chicago.
that disease is that weren't spreading have been the past few years because of the rampant homelessness, like cholera and even the frickin' plague.
Yes, it's very disgusting living in Los Angeles City, and although I work in, for example, not in Los Angeles specifically, but Santa Monica, I don't like going down to work because everything's so disgusting just going down there.
And now I'm starting to wonder, is Mr. Beat just stupid or is he intentionally misleading?
Considering that we've seen the level of his jokes, I'm gonna say he's just stupid.
Yeah, probably more just stupid, because even if some of these things are technically fallacies, you also got to look at are they wrong?
Yeah, because there is objective evidence to back up a lot of what he's saying.
Yes.
Like, oh, what's kosher and not kosher? You can go to a frickin' rabbi and, well, not to mention, there are companies that, make kosher products, so they can also tell you what the definition is.
Also, you can just going back to the Los Angeles thing. Is Los Angeles worse now than it was before?
Yeah.
Yes. That is a factual thing. It is worse off now, mostly because of the policies that were put in place where a bunch of homeless people started coming in and sitting in the streets. Literally.
Well, don't worry. Most of those homeless people will go to Portland.
Anyways, let's continue.
Here's another example.
How much of that is historic redlining and how much of that is an 18-year-old kid today deciding to pick up a gun and shoot somebody?
And yet another example.
It's a shift that's happened throughout American society that went from the notion that men were acting like pigs and they should stop acting like pigs to what if everybody acted like pigs?
Here's a part of the episode where Rogan starts talking about regularly seeing the homeless in tents all over the city.
Well, you started to see tents, and you didn't see them at all for decades, and then all of a sudden I started seeing tents.
Now, don't get me wrong, there is no doubt that homelessness is a big problem in Los Angeles right now. But Rogan just is sharing what he's personally witnessed in parts of town, making it sound like the entire city is like that, when there's no evidence of that. This is called the
Yes, because every
hole
time,
fallacy.
may I make a joke? Because every time a new homeless shelter is planned to be built, all those good left-wing producers and the celebrities cry and threaten the city to leave, and then, no new shelter.
Yeah, plus the
But more
celebrities
tents.
aren't going to be living directly in LA. They live outside of it, so they can be in their mansions.
Yeah, and you can also go to say that, are there areas where it's probably nice? Yeah, there might be some areas where it's more nice, but those are probably more likely going to be the upper middle class areas, where they have a little bit more leeway, or not leeway, but a little more power to influence policy to not affect them as much. So those areas are probably going to be less affected compared to the more, middle class and more poor areas.
Also known as the composition/division fallacy. It assumes that what's true about one part of something has to be applied to all or other parts of it. And here's another example.
And yet it immediately turned into, who can we blame? Who's to blame for all these dead people? Maybe it's Ron DeSantis, or maybe it's Cuomo. Like, who can we blame?
Sure, some in the media looked for people to blame, but definitely most did not. And now Rogan's going...
I'm pretty sure the media did just try to look to blame who they could.
to tell an anecdote.
I took my family there before COVID, like 4 months before COVID or so. We were going to go to, there's a famous donut place there. So we said, just one of those goofy Sunday things, like, what do you guys want to do today? Let's go get donuts. So we went to downtown LA, like, holy, literally, human on the streets. Everything smelled like piss. Bums everywhere. And I'm like, okay, stay close to me. Stay over here.
Yeah, this is a pretty common one. The anecdotal fallacy, using personal experience or an isolated example instead of a valid argument. And let's face it, most of us are very biased based on our personal experiences.
But again, is it wrong? No, because there are large portions of Los Angeles and Santa Monica that are shit. That are just shit. They've gone really downhill. Is anyone else
it's same in Seattle.
We're just going to remain, every time you talk, we're just going to remain quiet.
I was going to say, I've noticed the same in Seattle, where there were always the occasional tent on the freeway. Like, that's every big city, but then there were like 50 tents in like areas. It got insane. And it's more insane.
Yeah.
I kind of feel bad.
Also, a lot of this is because California has a homeless lobby now. So they use the homeless block. Yes, they use the homeless block to vote for policies to make it so that it's you get a bunch of benefits from being homeless in California.
What?
And
more
so a bunch of homeless people move in from across
Which
the country.
one is the benefit? Well, please tell me what the benefit is. I'm genuinely curious.
You get, well, you see, you don't have to pay the exorbitant property taxes. So there's also a ton of people who are middle class and are homeless in California and just live in nice tents. They also provide you with free tents and a bunch of other free stuff.
I think you're no wait, I got a joke. I think you're currently mixing up the whole thing of middle class people living in tents and university students who think living in a pod is a good idea.
No, like it's less expensive. Like there's a ton of people in California who
I would imagine that it's less expensive because you don't own
cars
property
and go to the shower in a gym.
It's similar with Oregon too. Like, for some people, it is a lifestyle to just live in a tent, then collect whatever form of welfare.
Yeah, but that's old. That's not even now. That's literally something that I think also started in the 60s and 70s.
No, it's something that has grown and become more popular.
I think what I think this situation would be is something more like we've become more aware to it. Because, I mean, you got to remember, a lot of things, as time goes on, we realize becomes more aware because of how much more exposure it's getting on the internet. As for this, I don't think it's necessarily grown. Maybe it's had just the same growth factor as everything else as a population expands. But I don't know. I feel like this is a situation where it's more like it's gotten more exposure than actually growing, because this is something really not new.
Here are some more examples of the anecdotal fallacy in the episode.
And then over the past 13 years, like, I live in a pretty decent suburban area, and I'm seeing like open needles on the street. Walked out of my house one day, there's just a guy lying face down in the gutter like Edgar Allan Poe. Like,
I remember one time we were filming.
I got a good joke for
LA.
this.
Anyway,
I got a good joke because about Regensburg, where I used to go to study. Yeah, because I had people tell me, "Oh, Regensburg is such a wonderful city" and all that, and it's like, okay, I've only been asked by someone who was trying to sell me cocaine on several occasions. I see the poor ass city workers that I pass by every Thursday who have to clean up shit off of the wall. I'm not even joking about that event. I do see the same city cleaners on the same street every Thursday when I used to go there. What else was there? I can barely breathe. My lungs are already shit, but because everyone likes a diesel car in Regensburg, it's very hard to breathe during wintertime. What else can I think about? I mean, half of the time where my schools is, there's Antifa propaganda pictures, stickers all around. Can't really think of much of the homeless, but that's also because during summertime, people kind of fear because a certain group is out at night. If I have to give one more description of the group that's out at night, but let's just say they disappear around wintertime. So do with that information what you will.
Or whenever the weather is inconvenient.
Yes. But mostly winter.
Filming some Fear Factor stunt, and as we got up, we could see people smoking crack. And I go, oh, look, there's people smoking crack right there. And the guests on the show, like a lot of them, they fly from all over the country. And they're like, is that real? They're really smoking crack? I'm like, that's crack. That's a homeless person smoking crack. Welcome to LA. It's right there.
I know people who died in the hospital of COVID and their family could not visit them.
I didn't think it was ever going to get to the point where you're on like Winnetka off the 101 and there's 80 tents and they put a porta potty there.
By the way, the following are clips from the same episode.
Anecdotal evidence is evidence of an anecdote. It is not evidence of a broad national trend.
And I know what you're saying, that these are anecdotes, and this doesn't encompass the full statistics of cops versus black men and how what is exactly is happening.
I don't like the idea that you are going to attribute to all of America a sin that is, number one, anecdotal in nature.
He's reacting to something that's anecdotal, but there's many of those anecdotes, and you see them over and over again.
And I was a bit surprised to hear this one, actually. Here is a loaded question.
What do you think caused the slide, or the expansion of the slide?
With further context, listening to the whole episode, Rogan is referring to the steep decline of Los Angeles. Now, it's a loaded question because it's not a fact that LA is in steep decline right now. Don't get me wrong. Things have gotten pretty bad in LA over the past year or two, as they have in many American cities. But if you look at LA historically, this is not as dramatic as Rogan and Shapiro are trying to make it out to be. A loaded question is a question that's asked that has an assumption built into it. Often
Pause it for a moment, because I got a question to counteract him. Which portion of the United States owns more in debt than the US government? I'll give you a hint. The hint is the video. Well, more LA and Hollywood, because they are severely in debt. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, like, let's take Warner Brothers. I think Warner Brothers, like, $600 million in debt because of how many films they had that just flop. God knows how much money Disney owns. So it's just... His argument is like, okay, yeah, LA is shiny now, but money-wise and most other vices, it's not really doing good. Okay, seriously, no one else is hit. I mean, Pedro, we got you on the show. You got to say something else.
Okay. Mr. Beat is the worst. He's basically left-wing PragerU.
Oh, please,
No, I
PragerU has
think that
better
just
animation.
goes to the Gravel Institute.
I don't know. I don't think Gravel Institute is competent enough.
Okay, anyways, let's continue.
Hidden behind the other. It's like asking, why did you take that cookie? When you should have asked, did you take that cookie first? And so the better question for Rogan is to ask, is Los Angeles sliding right now? Or perhaps even, how bad is the slide in Los Angeles right now? Folks, here's one of the most common logical fallacies I see in media. That is the Texas sharpshooter, also known as cherry picking. Shapiro here is going to focus on specific evidence to back up his argument about why homelessness is such a big problem in LA.
And then they got a ruling from a court that you're allowed to live in your car, because for a while you weren't allowed to live in your car, and then it was you're allowed to live in your car. So now you're basically allowed to leave your stuff on the sidewalk, and the police are not allowed to move it. and you're allowed to live in your car. And then there was this sort of equity movement that said, okay, well, things do it in business districts, but why can't they do it in like more suburban areas? Why can't they just move into nicer areas? After all, if there's misery, it should be equally spread across the city.
The Texas sharpshooter fallacy is when you cherry pick data clusters to suit an argument, or you find a pattern to fit a presumption. You basically just ignore evidence that doesn't neatly fit into your argument, and you focus on evidence that does help your argument.
Except those things do help the argument. Now that's just one of the policies, but there's been many policies that were just bad. I think he's...
Yeah, I don't see how it's a logical fallacy to, like, mention laws and their obvious effects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just repeating myself at this point, but everything he's complaining is like an antidote is backed up by objective evidence, like more people moving out of the state than moving in, or the rising cost of living, both, for products and for housing.
Yeah, this is
not they lost a House seat, by the way.
But yeah, this is not a good
California
example.
lost a House seat.
Well, anyways, this is not a good example of cherry picking. Would it be a good example of cherry picking? Let's think. It would probably be like showing the fact that more black people per capita are being shot than white people. That would be cherry picking. But the problem with that is that you're ignoring the context of what that actually means. That's an example of cherry picking. This is not. This is a bad example of cherry picking.
Outlaw confirmed racist 2021.
Actually, homelessness is a very complex problem with...
No, it's not a complex problem at all. It really isn't.
Yeah, it's mostly, drug addicts.
Well, there's the drug addicts, and then there's the problem of people incentivizing the drug addicts to go to certain places and just stay there. So yeah, it's not a complex problem. It's very simplistic.
Lots of different causes. Shapiro confidently explains why homelessness in LA is such a problem, focusing only on certain evidence while ignoring lots of other evidence. And now here's a clip where they talk about Maui.
Are you going to give an example, or are you just going to state it like that? Let's see, does he even give sources? I can't remember. He might give some sources. Okay, he does give some stuff here. Wait, no, these aren't sources.
No,
Yeah, no sources.
it's just, hey, here's my links, here's my merchandise.
Yes.
Okay, that was just a book that he's talking about here, which is not a source for this. So yeah, he doesn't even give any sources to even at least back the claim, even if he doesn't even mention it.
Well, lefties tend to not cite sources because the data doesn't agree with them almost ever. And what they'll generally do is something like pull out one line in a study where the person says, well, the results weren't what I wanted them to be, but if I did it again, I might get these results.
Mm-hmm.
And say, see, this is a proof that I'm right.
And if it says continue?
I'll go data-driven, which is the longer you live together with somebody before you get married, the higher your divorce rate after. So that is
higher the divorce rate after.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
If you live for a long time with somebody and then you get married, there is a higher percentage chance you will end up divorced.
That's interesting.
What?
I wonder why that is.
I mean, after just a quick Google search, I discovered that the jury's still out on this one. It's not an open and shut case. We just don't know. But Shapiro
Honestly,
acts
to
like
me,
he
it
knows.
kind
The
of
most
sounds like, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't there like the whole thing that as time goes on, people are spending less time together before they get married?
No,
I don't know about that, but I
no.
think I will say Ben Shapiro is wrong on this, because what probably it is the people who are not getting married and spending more time together and deciding not to get married. I would assume that's probably more of the not wanting to commit, and those people who not wanting to commit but then later on decide to commit that's probably why they're more likely divorced, because they were already...
Oh, no. The data's already out on this. Like, living together before you're married, and also having sex before you're married significantly increases your divorce rate.
Well,
All right,
I don't
you're a
think it's
Catholic.
that
I
those
completely
things
forgot
do
about
it.
that.
I think it has to do with commitment. Because
Well, I mean,
but
you
we're
can
not
say
gonna
what
get
the
through
reason
Pedro.
is.
He's
I'm
a
just
goddamn
saying that
Catholic.
those
Just-
things are correlated with a higher divorce rate.
I'm not saying they aren't correlated. I'm just saying I don't think those are necessarily the causes.
Outlaw.
Yeah, I know Pedro's a Catholic. I get it.
I'm not a
Yes.
Catholic.
Oh, I thought you were Catholic.
No,
I
I'm a
don't-
Protestant.
Either way, the only way we're gonna convince Pedro is if you throw a potato at him. It's not gonna change in our century.
And
Or
this is not-
you can just agree to disagree.
Anyways, let's continue.
Shut up, Neko. That's not how we do things over here. Remember, Neko, unlike Pedro, you are replaceable.
Common logical fallacy in this episode was the straw man fallacy, which is misrepresenting someone's argument to make it easier to attack. In this clip, you're going to hear Shapiro talk about authors like Robin DiAngelo and Ibram Kendi.
So what they say is, in order to be anti-racist, you have to want to tear down the entire system. They literally say this. I'm not really. I know that I'm not misidentifying the argument because I've read their books.
Yeah, he's misidentifying the argument. They never said that. At least when I was looking at the books, I couldn't find it. Oh, he keeps going with the straw man fallacy.
The
Pause for a
basic
sec.
notion.
He's not even bringing up the line or what might be construed as that. He's it's like Pedro was saying, no citation.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're just making it that we have to take his word for it.
Yeah. Also, Robin DiAngelo is basically like the Catholic version of anti-racism, where racism is like your original sin, and you have to constantly repent and rub your rosary. I mean, your book of how to be an anti-racist, and pray that you will not act racist anymore.
If I recall, that lady, didn't she, even if her book doesn't say specifically something like what Ben Shapiro says here, I'm pretty sure she's tweeted things like that, if I'm not...
Yes. No, her book is insane. Like, I was listening, I was only able to listen to it for like an hour before it just irritated me to the point where I couldn't listen to it anymore, because it was just irritating.
I mean, you lasted longer than I would have.
Could you give us like a brief summary of what the parts you were able to hear?
Basically when white people get mad that you accuse them of being racist, that's called white fragility, which you thinking that you're not a racist is actually proof, irrefutably, that you're a racist. So her whole ideology is a Kafka trap. You believing something isn't true is evidence that it is true.
So with the parts you were able to hear, would you say what Ben Shapiro's description was accurate, inaccurate, or moderately accurate? What would you say?
I'd say it's inaccurate because it doesn't go hard enough.
Okay, so that's what you're saying. You feel that he doesn't go hard enough into saying how bad it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's continue.
That to be anti-racist, you have to tear down free markets, or you have to tear down free speech, or you have to, and what that means is, of course, that anytime there's rioting and looting, that's really just an expression of outrage at the broader American system, and so it justifies that sort of stuff.
Saying that to be anti-racist, you have to tear down free markets or tear down free speech, that is definitely misrepresenting the other side. Now, here Shapiro has a rant against the 16...
Not really.
19 Project, which personally I'm not a fan of, but he just completely misconstrues and oversimplifies what their mission is.
So the idea is that the entire history of America is a history of a system that is endemically white supremacist, and that all of the Declaration of Independence is basically a lie. That the principles of all men are created equal, that was a lie when it was written, and it's a lie now. That the idea that we have rights that pre-exist government, that's a lie. All of these things are lies. The Constitution was built in order to enshrine white supremacy, and no evolution has taken place. So they essentially make the argument that from 1619 to 2020 is a continuum. Racism has gone underground a little bit, but it's still there, and it's still implicit in all of our systems. So the 1619 Project has essays blaming literally everything on racism.
I mean, sure, all that is partially true, but I don't even know if Shapiro realizes he's doing this, but it is exaggeration. Here's another one. Shapiro does not think that
still there, and it's still implicit in all of our systems. So the 1619 Project has essays blaming literally everything on racism.
I mean, sure, all that is...
Okay. In August of 1619, a ship appeared on the horizon near the 20 slave Africans were sold.
Oh yeah, no, those slaves in 1619 were indentured servants like everybody else and became citizens. It was actually like that for black people for the first 40 years. Basically, only having exclusively black people from the Atlantic became a thing after the Bacon Rebellion. And that was when black and white settlers made common cause against the elites.
But isn't this also not really disputing his argument, because they're trying to say it's an original sin of the United States, which specifically the United States wasn't even a thing right then.
No, it wasn't.
That was even before the founders were even born.
Look, you're clearly clouding this issue with facts, and it's very annoying.
Any other comments you guys want to make so far?
Not really. I just feel like I want to end my suffering from this video.
Partially true, but I don't even know if Shapiro realizes he's doing this, but it is exaggeration. Here's another one. Shapiro does not think that systemic racism or institutional racism really is a big issue.
History has consequences is not the same thing as saying...
because it's not. I've looked at some studies. There really is no strong evidence to say there is systemic racism or institutional racism towards black or Hispanic people. Like, literally none. Like, there's very little evidence to say that. Some things say there might be some others say there isn't, or some say that it might actually just be that blacks are harder against blacks and whites. Like, there's really no significant evidence to say it. So if there's no significant evidence, I would say you can't say it is. So, yeah.
The rules today are racist. Because the rules today are not racist, actually. The rules today are quite not racist.
But most who talk about institutional racism today are talking about enforcement of the laws, not the actual laws themselves.
Except with the enforcement, there's also no difference.
No.
And so instead of...
Actually, our problem is that we're soft.
Well, no, yes, if anything, we are softer on probably black and Hispanic people. In a lot of instances.
Oh, we're soft on everyone, and it's a problem.
Anyways, my main point
it's weird. So we're like simultaneously really soft, but also have a lot of like draconian things in our justice system. So lawsuits are pretty draconian in how they work, but like offenses for felonies and stuff is also pretty lenient. And first-time offenders are also put in prison with like career criminals. So, you know, that's one of our main issues is you need to separate the first-time offenders from the career criminals. Like they shouldn't be in the same prison.
Anyways, let's continue.
Just saying that standards exist and people don't live up to them, but the standards are actually not a bad thing. We just decided, you know what, we don't want to be hypocrites. We're getting rid of all standards whatsoever. Everybody shouldn't have standards, and if you believe that anybody should have standards, then you're a hypocrite.
I mean, he keeps saying we, but let's first establish even a small group that is saying we should get rid of all standards.
And they shut down the entire county so that douchebags could run around shattering windows, pretending that they were standing up for social justice.
No, that's not why they shut them down.
They shut down Rodeo Drive at 1 p.m. so that people could run up and down Rodeo Drive talking about how capitalism sucks while tweeting from their iPhone.
While stealing Nikes.
Oh, that's a 2-for-1. Not only was that the straw man fallacy, but that was also a tu quo que fallacy. The tu quo que fallacy is dismissing someone's viewpoint on an issue because he himself is inconsistent in that very thing. Basically,
oh, no, that's not a
this
fallacy.
person's a hypocrite.
Sorry?
That's not a fallacy. No, we should just have a standard generally in society that people need to live by their stated preferences. Otherwise, we don't take them seriously.
Yeah, it really shouldn't be that hard.
It's not.
Hypocrite, so why should I listen to what they're saying? Shapiro and Rogan here basically downplaying criticisms of capitalism because the critics themselves benefit from capitalism.
Are you tired of having to come up with well thought out arguments to defend yourself?
You betcha.
Then you should try the Tukokwe app. It removes all of the effort by refocusing the criticism back at the person that's giving you guff.
How does it work?
The app auto-generates insults and other shortcomings to take the heat off of you.
That seems kind of asinine.
Of course you would say that, because you're a
How many
jerk.
puppets does he have?
Tukokwe.
Anyways, most of the criticisms that people do have capitalism are either overblown or just not capitalism.
All right, I'll wait.
Like,
Yeah,
seriously.
here's the thing. These people actually don't have to have iPhones. They actually don't have to have most technology. It's called being Amish, and you can do it. They just don't want to do it. Like, these people can live in communes and work on worker co-ops, but they choose not to.
Yeah, because they don't want to.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna drop you off first.
Yeah, no, because they want to be capitalist pig dogs while complaining about what they benefit from.
You can only protest if it's a Black
Like,
Lives Matter
seriously.
protest. What about a protest for increasing your immunity? What about a protest for educating people to the techniques and the strategies for increasing your immune system? They're out there, and there's no discussion about this amongst health professionals. Amongst politicians.
Yep, whataboutism falls under this fallacy, basically answering criticism with criticism.
What we saw yesterday, where they're breaking into Amazon Go in Seattle, like that guy owns the Washington Post. He owns the most left-wing newspaper in America, and you're like, not good enough.
Okay, this is a bit of a stretch, but that is kind of an example of
Okay,
the
shall we really
genetic fallacy.
move on from the video because this thing is really fucking boring as hell and...
I was entertained
Okay.
of just trashing it.
Well, that's the thing, though. The entertaining thing isn't Mr. Beat, because no one in their right mind would be entertained by Mr. Beat. We're more entertained by Joe Rogan.
Yeah, but we're going long stretches of not making any comments, and he's just constantly repeating his argument in a very boring tone, with God knows
we
how
can
many
skip a little
puppets.
bit of it.
I kind of agree. Like, it's becoming the same thing over and over with Mr. Beat.
It started out funny, but that was...
Yeah.
That
Well, let's
Mr. Beat says one thing, and then we say, you're wrong.
Pretty much.
Fallacy, which is making what could be called an appeal to purity as a way to dismiss relevant criticisms or flaws of an argument. If Shapiro found out that yes, actually, there were people out there who thought that Chauvin should not go to jail, I'm predicting he would say, well, no decent human being would want to see Chauvin not in jail. Later in the show, when they're talking about Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem, here's a more clear-cut case of the no true Scotsman fallacy.
No, because I think that he made a serious error, which is that the most positive movements in American social history have been ones that don't kneel for the flag, but say, in the name of the flag, you should do X.
In other words, no true patriotic American would protest that way. Since the Colin Kaepernick...
No, I just think he's just criticizing. I don't think he's just saying that there's no true patriot. I think he's trying to say that there's a better way to protest, which is a better way to protest.
Well, look, all I'm saying, Mr. Beat, is if your ideology likes to burn the American flag, you can't call yourself a patriot.
That too.
Like, no matter how you want to justify that, okay, if you're burning the symbol of your country, it shows that you have disdain for said country.
Mm-hmm.
Kaepernick controversy and the George Floyd killing, there has been increased discussion about defunding the police. Ben Shapiro's going to take that a step further, though.
Let's have a conversation instead about, like, just completely defunding the police. We want to have, like, a responsible conversation about things that make sense. We'll talk about, like, what if we just got rid of the police?
How
about that?
crazy is that discussion? That discussion, when people were really saying defund the police, I'm like, cooler heads will prevail.
This is an example of the slippery slope fallacy, which assumes that if we allow A to happen, then Z will consequently happen too, therefore A should not happen. When they say that defunding the police will lead to no police, that is a slippery slope. Okay.
But that's literally what a lot of people have been calling for. Like, I've been hearing politicians and the media saying, no, we need to go further. We need to abolish the police.
Or, just what Hollywood has been doing with movies, It's just one little change over here, and then what do? You get the death of the most successful franchise in the history of cinema.
Now, yes, is it a technical fallacy? Yes, the slippery slope is a fallacy.
No, it's not.
Let me.
Every single historical slippery slope argument has come true.
Let me just finish. In the technical sense that certain things aren't necessarily going to lead to other things, but you have to look at the bigger picture as to, will this actually lead to it? What is the reasons they are saying for this thing? And is it reasonable to assume that this thing could be used, again, for the same thing? For the whole thing with but the reasons for legalizing same-sex marriage, and for the thing with the trans issue, and what could also eventually be used for the pedophiles. The reasoning they give behind is that these people are oppressed, therefore we must help them. That same reasoning logic could be used for the pedophiles.
Pedos would be the last thing.
Have you not seen the maps?
No. Well, yeah, but they'll be small. Incest and then animals comes first.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need to get everything else out of the way before that becomes the final thing you try to make normal. I guess, I don't know.
I would say it's just that there's certain reasons. Like, what is the reason they are saying this? The reasons they were saying for a lot of the things we're hearing now is because, these people are oppressed, we need to do something about it. Not because it's immoral. Or not because it's not right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, with the the next one will be like incest or whatever, and the counter arguments for that, at least the secular ones, will be stuff like it messes up the family dynamic, which the response to that will be that family values is a Nazi dog whistle, you bigot. And the other one will be, it causes birth defects. And the response to that will be, that's literally eugenics, you Nazi bigot.
Well, they already do the first one saying the nuclear family is a, quote, white whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's another 2-for-1.
You're seeing what's happening right now in Chicago. You're seeing what's happening right now in New York, where you have this. New York City has had record crime, record homicides.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
That's also an appeal to fear fallacy when a person attempts to create support for an idea by attempting to increase fear towards an alternative. As I said before, there's no evidence to back up what they're claiming, and so they're really
for
just
fuck's
trying to
sake,
scare
it's New
people,
York
saying,
City.
Hey, if we're going to defund the police, then there will be chaos.
The
man.
city's so
If
nice
you're
you could kill someone in the 70s and not be expected to be arrested, let alone the cops to arrive.
Well, but there's also precedent to show that with the defund amount of money that they have less resources to use to be able to properly actually police the city. So it's not wrong what they're saying.
I mean, defunding the police killed Dante Wright. Like, let's be real here. Like, the cop who accidentally shot him was literally like some random lady cop who had been pushing pencils for 26 years and was then put out on the streets because they drove away most of the cops by defunding the police. Like, that's one thing. The other thing too, though, is if we as a society are have to make the argument that getting rid of the police increases crime, then we're already kind of screwed.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, I think they've gone enough with the video.
Yeah.
Finally.
It's... Yeah, I think I started getting bored halfway through.
I got bored a long time ago.
Well, anyways, now since we're done with that video, we can share what Z has here. Let me see if I can bring it up.
What's up, man?
Show us the thing, Z.
Oh, Outlaw has to
Bring it
show
up
it.
for him.
Actually, you know what? I'm not gonna say what it is. Outlaw, don't say anything. Let these two read, and let's see if they.
I think we need to have someone read it so we can. Have...
I can't read it because I'm on my phone. It's too tiny print.
Okay, Z, can you read it?
For fuck's sake. It's from our good old friend Pipmaster Broda. Zoomers on TikTok are arguing that Professor X is evil for not mind controlling the world and stopping all racist thoughts. Some even agreed it would be better to lose free will with no murderers / liars. Gen Z just unironically asked to be mind controlled for the greater good.
And here's where we have some of the screenshots.
Well, I'm not surprised considering these are the same people who hate free speech and, well, pretty much any individualist idea.
Yes. Well, no, not individualism, because they are radical individualists.
Yeah, someone else tried to read these.
I don't want to take away their free will. People are dying, Charles. Dying! Professor X would say it's morally wrong to do that. But you know what else is wrong? Racism, Charles.
Yes, because racism is literally the worst thing on the planet. This whole fucking thread, because he has like 2 other posts with more images, which I hope
we're
gets to.
We're like really overly concerned with people who judge people by the color of their skin instead of the content of their character. You know when you think about it, Professor X can literally just telepathically make the whole world like mutants. Because where does it stop? Should he just block any bad sentiments from every single human brain? You don't get it with a bunch of T's. What exactly don't I get? Yes.
And that's so common with these people. They won't even argue. They'll just, oh, you don't see it? See what?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I wish this was people being ironic and poking fun, but nah, they're literally asking to get unironically mind-controlled and think free will was a mistake.
Well, no, they don't think they'll be mind-controlled. Professor X is the true villain of our society. Free will is an illusion to forcibly change people's minds.
What?
Because Charles grew up a privileged white boy in the mutant closet and believes in a false sense of human decency. It's his nature and character flaw. Wanda Maximoff can do the same thing, but she just uses her power so she can live in the 50s. Very telling. Charles wouldn't do it, but Magneto would if he could. Let's be real. Magneto should have got Charles's power. Pretty morally wrong. Oh, sorry. What's up?
This reminds me of a video by Short Fat Otaku talking about how these far left people sympathize with the villains.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I highly recommend it because what we're seeing here is a prime example. They are sympathizing with Magneto, the man who wants to kill humans and make them like a subclass to the mutants.
Well, I mean, these people identifying with evil is not like nothing new.
I mean, right.
Honestly, I would kind of
just,
like. I do not know if there's a comic book out there. I hope there is, because then I would probably look it up. But it does kind of sound like an interesting concept where you have an alternative universe where the roles are flipped. So Magneto and all are the good guys, and Xavier and all are the bad guys. Because now it would require Magneto to think smart and produce more helmets that block.
Also, there's got to be some ridiculous cognitive dissonance here, because the Confederacy was bad because they had slavery, okay? Like that's their whole thing. They had slavery. And now they're arguing that free will is evil. So now they're basically saying the Confederacy did nothing wrong.
No, I didn't read the bigger portion.
Yeah.
The post. And no, I'm not cherry picking comments on the video. A big majority are actually in agreement that Professor X is evil for not playing God. So yeah, because he needs to win against Magneto, not necessarily do the right thing. It's an ego thing. Professor X could do a lot of things, and chooses not to because it wouldn't be right. Someone else want to continue reading?
Sure. Prof X could solve so many problems if he didn't act so morally superior. It would go against his code. Okay, and?
This kind of just shouts that some of these people have literally no moral code.
No, they don't. They think evil is good. Because that takes away from people's free will, and free will is a God-given gift. She's right. She's right though, but that will make him a god that takes away free will. Free will to be racist? Question mark. No, free will to grow and stay the same. To grow or stay the same. It's not your job to change people. It's your job. It's your job and your free will to learn and grow. If they don't learn, well, Professor X would, but he realized if he took that away from people, they'd all go brain dead. I still say do it though. Let's see. He would say that it's against their will because it's morally wrong for him. He got ethics or whatever, so he just watched people suffer. Because no matter how evil or wrong someone is, taking away their free will makes you worse than them. I don't know. I feel like it makes me exactly as bad as them. Except I'm doing it for a good cause. No, you can't do that. So we're violating the doctrine of double effect. Okay. Let's see. They probably don't deserve free will if they're racist.
Coming from Boland's boyfriend.
Yes.
Any more comments do we have? Let's just check out the Twitter comments in general. No, just move down to the Twitter comments. Why is this so hard? There we go. What is there?
Well,
Magneto should have gotten Charles' power.
They denied a group of people free will.
What? So we got this.
Sorry, my dad was commenting in the background.
Okay,
I didn't think you guys could hear.
We can hear everything. Anyways, Magneto should have gotten Charles' power. Magneto is the product of exactly the world Charles devotes his life to prevent. Power-hungry dictators bent on world domination and singular thought. The fuck is wrong with kids these days? They were never taught actual history. They basically received training instead of a real education. This is how they were programmed to be by people far more sinister than Magneto. Yeah, that could make sense. I wonder what kind of takes they would have if they watch Psychopaths.
If I recall,
that's a good anime. I'd recommend it.
That's why I never heard of it. Anyways, just in, kids have poorly thought out ideas. More at 11. Okay, that one was bad.
That's the other thing. You get weird takes like 8-year-olds, like 8-year-olds saying that they wish the planes hit their school instead of the Twin Towers.
Yeah, but that's also because they're 8. At this point, I'm going to suspect that they're a bit higher considering they are speaking proper English most of the time.
Yeah, no, but this is American kids. You have to understand that we don't raise people to be adults until they're 35 now.
Okay, then explain to me how am I supposed to expect these to be something like 8-year-olds who can fucking type then?
No, I was just memeing about how immature our friggin' kids are these days. I know I sound like an old man being a literal Zoomer, but, you know.
I mean,
you are an old man.
Well,
very well.
that's how a lot of rational young adults feel. Because the culture has just changed so rapidly and, well,
Wait,
so
who's the youngest
forcefully.
in our group over here?
Come on, it's time to take your pill and drink your prune juice. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just warning my brother not to say things on YouTube or whatever. This is go live people, but
I'm pretty sure we
yeah,
heard
no,
something
like-
about prune juice.
Oh, he was just making a joke about how I'm an old, grumpy old man at like 22. But no, basically, you get articles like your 30s are your new 20s or whatever. Like, you don't really grow up until you're 35. Like, it's just not good.
I think it sounds like you've been reading one too many articles where people project their fears, and these are the kind of people which is like, oh, I'm going to college and it's going to be a short while, and they're there for
Pretty
like
much.
8+ years, and then you realize, oh fuck, I wasted all of my time on shitty degrees that are literally useless. Time to write an article about it to make myself feel young.
I will have you know that my liberal arts degree will look very great in a little container on my wall or some shit, and will never be used again.
Anyways, I think that's it for today. Does anyone have any final comments they'd like to say?
This stream went on for half an hour too long.
Anyways,
This stream went along just long enough because I'm going to the store now.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining. For those who are still watching or are watching in the future, please go ahead and follow Nekaboy on his YouTube channel.
I'm going to check out right now and see how many people are actually watching us.
Just one person. So
is that you?
No.
The only person who matters watching this show.
And, that's right. And don't forget to commission Z Commander. He does his different models. And of course, if you really like the content here, please go ahead and subscribe and donate to my Patreon or Ko-fi. Do all this, and we'll see y'all.